Yeah.
Welcome back, guys. We got an awesome episode for you today. I'm joined by Michael Draper of Expert Safety Services. Many of you guys in this industry, I think, will know him. He seems to be at every event that I go to, teaching and training safety, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. You have to come to one of his classes to learn about that. Today, we're going to talk about Michael's journey in business. But before we get into that, thanks for being on, Michael. This is really awesome. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity and being able to be with you guys today. So thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell for those that I don't even know that we're going to cross anybody that doesn't know who you are, but let's say they don't. What is Expert Safety Services? Kind of just give us like the brief 30-second snapshot on what that is and what that business does.
Yeah, we're a very niche safety consulting company. We primarily consult with companies in the window cleaning and pressure washing fields. And so we've just really kind of taken a customized approach to these industries, making sure that we try to make sure everybody understands what the OSHA requirements are, and then how to roll out a safety program. So we do everything from the engineered component of the anchor system on the building, all the way to the equipment that the person would use in fall protection and respiratory, and then also the training that it takes for those things. So really an all-around safety consulting company.
Very cool. So, Michael, what led you to start? And I assume you started the business, right? Before
I
I
did.
make. Okay. What led you to start a safety consulting business?
Well, I was in the service industry before, so I owned my own window cleaning company. We did a lot of window cleaning, power washing, everything. So we owned that in Central Illinois from really 2000 to 2014 is when I sold. And I had been in the industry prior to that, working for other companies and things. So we were always a safe company. We always talked about safety, thought about safety. The reason we primarily, 2014, we sold the company, and so Expert Safety Services was kind of born out of OSHA, the general industry standard of OSHA changed in 2017, and I could just see that there wasn't, the associations were, trying to train, but they really weren't very effective at it. They just didn't have enough bandwidth. And so when I just seen the opportunity, and so we started it, and we just never looked back. It's been a great company so far. We're still building, but it's been good.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know if maybe there was like a hidden story in there that was going to come out of it. So basically, as you made a transition, you saw there was a need
Yeah.
for the service. So, oh man, I'm torn where to go. So actually, I'm a little bit interested in your window cleaning and pressure washing business. What made you want to exit out of that? Did it just run its course? Did you kind of have a unique opportunity? Tell me a little bit about that story. I think exiting a business can be something that's a very obscure thing for guys. So I'm just kind of interested a little bit about kind of what transpired there before we dive into this current business.
Yeah, it was interesting. A competitor, kind of a competitor, really a company that was north of us, really surrounded us in their regional play. They would joke with me at convention and stuff. They would say, we should buy you out. And they had done it a couple years, and the last time that they did, which would have been in 2000, latter part of 2013, I guess. I just joked back, I was like, well, what's that look like? You keep talking. What's the check look like? And so we kind of come to an agreement, and they offered a very fair deal. It was more than fair, actually. And we our EBITDA at the time, it was about 5.5 times EBITDA. And so for the company of the size we were, it was really good. I mean, 3.5 times was really the going rate from a bank. And we were in a market that I knew it could grow a little bit, but it wasn't going to grow much more just based on population. We weren't going to to grow our commercial division much more. We were already the king dog, kind of, so to speak. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I knew I wanted to do other things, and I've been always been an entrepreneur. So, these things to me, they always kind of run their course. And when they do, if there's an opportunity to exit and make money and go on to something else, then you do. And so that's really where it was at. My wife and I joked because we said, should we do this? Should we not? We did well out of it. I was absentee for the most part, but it's one of those things. If a good deal comes along, you just don't know when the next deal is going to come along. There's only so many people out there writing checks, and so when somebody's willing to write one, you got to kind of take it seriously and see if that's the right opportunity for you. And so that's what we did, and I'm happy we did. Now, I mean, looking back at it, thinking about these service contractors that are trying to fight this labor market and everything else, I'm glad I'm not in that game right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So you made a comment in there, and I want your opinion on this. You said you kind of had gotten to the point that there wasn't a whole lot more growth in your market for you.
Hmm.
Do you believe that a business has to always be on a growth trajectory to be healthy?
No, not at all. And for that was a personal thing. For me, you know, just as an entrepreneur, I'm just kind of always a forward thinker so far as, where are we going next? What are we doing? How are we building? And so once it hits a plateau, just for me personally, it kind of hits there's the challenge is gone now, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
we did it. And once that happens, just for me personally, I get bored. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't think it has to be. I think you can have a nice, healthy business and just maintain. And I think that's what you're going to see. A lot of these current businesses that are out there, even the larger ones, because of the labor market right now, they're not going to be on an upward trajectory. It's going to be, can we sustain what we have? Can we manage the accounts we have? And I'm not talking, $200,000 companies, $300,000 companies, even $500,000. I'm talking $1 million companies. They're really struggling to keep enough guys to service the work that they have, and so they're not going to be on a kill it as a sales thing type deal, because they're going to go out. They'd go out and sell another $1 million worth of work, but they can't get it done. And so I think you're going to see some businesses that are going to have to operate under that model of just being happy and content where they're at, higher profitability maybe, driving some price instead of driving sales, and be happy there.
Interesting. So you said you've kind of always been an entrepreneur. I just want to take one step deeper. What started that journey for you?
You know, um, I always talk about it in kind of the form of, sometimes it's a curse, um, because I don't really know what started for me. My parents weren't really entrepreneurs. My grandmother was a little bit. She kind of had a business savvy about her, and she instilled some of that into me. But I'm not really positive exactly where it came from, but it's always been there. And ever since I was very young, I can just remember that I was always looking to, you know, what's the next thing, or what. I would oftentimes work at a job, and I wouldn't be in it very long, and I'd be thinking, how could I own this? How could I buy this? And
Yeah.
I was never real happy being the employee, so to speak. I was joking with a colleague here a week or so ago, and I said, should I just go down there and run that division for you? And he's like, yeah, I'll hire you. And I'm like, I'm the worst employee ever. You'd never want me working for you. And but yeah, I don't know. And then it is a curse, because it's. I remember my mom always, when raising me, said that whatever I did, make sure I was the best at it. And so there's a drive there, a competitive drive, and it's not with anybody else. I could care what anybody else is doing. It doesn't bother me. Don't think about it. I don't care. I just know I'm competing with myself, trying to be the best. And so whatever I'm doing, If you are in the same lane as me, trying to go the same direction, you definitely feel a competitiveness because but I don't really care what you're doing. I just care what I'm doing, and I'm going to be the best.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So after having that successful experience with your service company, with the window cleaning power washing company, and then going into a next business, I've heard a lot of guys kind of say it. What took 15 or 20 years to build the first time could be built in a much shorter time span because of the lessons learned the second time. What would you say? And I know this is like maybe a tough question, but what would you say is maybe like a couple of like the ones that stand out in your mind that because you had that experience in one business, that when you went to the next, it helped you go faster?
Yeah, I think, and first of all, it's easy to talk about the successes, but there were a lot of failures. I mean, I almost lost the business at one point. We went to a franchise model, and I had kind of handpicked some guys that were going to be my first franchisees, and they failed miserably, and we had to end up go back and take the business back over. And I had some failures before that too in other businesses. One of the greatest things is that was learning my numbers. And you hear other guys talk about this too, but really knowing your numbers and knowing what a P&L looks like, how it reads. It's not just the income coming in, but where is that going, and what transfers down to the bottom line. And I see so many contractor businesses that don't run that way. They run from a sole proprietorship type mentality, where you'll see guys say, "Oh, I made $200 an hour." Yeah, probably not. Did you do that for 40 hours? And then that was a gross number that you ran that wasn't broke down in. And so that was a big thing for me, an eye waker. And I actually didn't learn that in business. I in one of my failures, I failed bad enough that we were bankrupt. So I had to take a job. I took a job as in the hotel business, and was promoted to a manager. And I had to learn P&Ls. I had to run the entire building and operation from a P&L statement. And I got so good, I could literally look at anybody's P&L from the hotel business, and I could tell them exactly where they were messing up, exactly what their operational problems were. And so that really was my big lesson. Then I took that I'd learned from that and brought it back into business, and it helped me greatly.
So definitely knowing your numbers. I think it's interesting. Every person that said that to me, it is accompanying the comment, well, I know a lot of people say that. Yet a lot don't ever learn it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a more tactical or tangible direction that you would point someone, like say somebody listens to this and they say, I actually would like to learn that. How would they go about learning that?
One of the biggest eye-opening experiences I had is go in, you can do this mentally just to kind of see, value your business in your mind. Everybody thinks their business is worth more than it is, probably. And
Yeah.
but value it in your mind, and then go do this. Go into the bank and try to buy your business. And you'll get an eye-opening there, because you're going to look at and get to see then how the banker evaluates your business. And that's really what we did. We had a guy that was an ex-banker, and then he turned a business consultant. And he really helped me a lot of looking at it from the perspective that the bank looks at. And it's important, because if somebody buys your business, they're probably going to the bank. Or they're going to go to an investor, they're going to go to whoever. They all kind of look at the numbers the same way. And so
Mm-hmm.
you'll get an eye-opening to see, okay, they evaluated it this. Why? Well, the profits are these. Well, why? Because, this is your top line number, but this is how it transferred to the bottom. And this is what you've got to have to service debt. So it's just, it's a really eye-opening experience. Go to your bank and try to buy your own business and see what happens.
I love that. That's so good. That is such a good piece of advice. That's awesome. Okay, so first one, knowing your numbers, big lesson that you took into being successful in business and keeping you out of trouble. What other lessons did you kind of pick up along the way that helped you in your current endeavor?
Well, I think just in business in general, having patience, and that's not something that to me comes natural either. I'm a lot of my failures were when I made moves, when I wanted things too quickly. I didn't allow a natural progression to take place at some point. I wanted bigger right now. And so that's another one that it's just really, some things just take time. And you hear, especially in the service business is a reputation business. Most guys that are successful at it have been doing it a long period of time, and they have a good name, right? They have a reputable name. You can't build that overnight. And you'll hear some of these, internet gurus and this and that, ramping your business to $1 million in 6 months and all this stuff. I'm not going to say it can't be done, but there's just a certain progression that has to take place. And it takes a deal of patience in order for that to take place. And, for me, I would just encourage anybody that's starting out or getting going. Maybe if they're in that second year, third year of growth, and they're trying to get up to the next one. Sometimes the things just take a little time. You can't just jump there, and no amount of advertising, no matter that you can't build a reputation by spending money. That just takes time, and it takes patience.
Wise words. I think just kind of responding to that internet guru, 0 to $1 million really fast in business, which is, first, the most arbitrary number in all of business. Like, what is $1 million business and what does that mean? And how valuable is that really? And then the second part is, I think, to your point, if you were to go analyze any story of someone that did that, I guarantee you at least 9 in 10, they had some kind of strong reputation that they leveraged for that quick success.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that it's really interesting that you put that point there, because the reality is people that do that, they come back through an industry, they start that next business, and it's like, hey, I did this in 20 years and I came back and did it in 6 months with another business. It's because you already knew everybody. They already knew you. You just started picking up the phone and people trusted you. You were already a trusted source with a reputation. So that's super valuable advice. I hate to go back to the well again, but is there any other like kind of points? Those were so good that we didn't cover that kind of on your mind?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've said this before in other interviews, and a lot of just some of this basic stuff. I was a horseshoer professionally for 6 or 7 years, and I've told this story before. But the instructor, he told us that to be successful in business, we had to get up, clean up, and show up. And I never really understood that at the time. I thought it was oversimplified, and I was kind of mad when I first heard it because I was expecting a lot more business advice. But those words rang true so many times when I was building my window cleaning business. I would hear it all the time. I'd walk in through the door doing a cold call, and they'd say, "Yeah, we've got somebody, but man, we haven't seen him in a month or two." And so it was like, "Oh, okay, they're not showing up." And I would look at the industry also, and I would see how guys dress and how they look and present themselves. And I say, "Yeah, you know what? He was right. These guys aren't cleaning up." And even when we were doing residential work for window cleaning, we had guys, and we're blue collar guys, so we're wearing jeans and stuff, but we'd wear a nice polo, and we'd make sure that we had a new shirt for each job that we had that day. So if you went to Susie Johnson's house next, she deserves to see you in a clean shirt, right? Not all sweaty and
Yeah.
stained and bleached out from the last job you did. And so I just noticed these things, and then getting up, get up, clean up, and show up, and boy, you do those three things, and a lot of stuff just takes care of itself.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I appreciate that. Yeah, what is it? It's it's that old adage of, get really good at the fundamentals,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, you mentioned that, in your business today, you're kind of glad that you're not in the same dealing with some of the same labor issues that, your contemporaries in the cleaning and businesses are. What does your business model look like now? Is it you're looking at different employees as part of the team, or is it just because you're running a much smaller team, or
Yeah, we are running a smaller team, and for the most part, when I first started this, my goal was not really to do what we're doing today. It was really just going to be do some training, maybe help a few guys out in the consulting world, and that was it. I had sold my business. We've lived pretty humble lives, so to speak. We're not out of our means, and so I didn't really have to do a whole lot. And so it was just kind of going to be a little avenue, a little revenue stream for me. But it just kept morphing. We kept getting busier. And so we had to bring on some folks. But right now, I mean, everybody that's working for me is either family or very, very close friends. And, I don't really have the desire to scale much bigger than that. We really treat everybody like they're not really employees. They're partners. They're mini partners in it. We pay extremely well when we do, let's say, an anchor job or something like that. We pay more than we have to, but my guys are motivated. Whenever I call and say we've got a job, they're ready to go do it. We take care of everybody really, really well. So we're not really struggling with the same type of labor issues because the team that I have, they're part of it, and they want to be here and are rewarded for it. So I don't really look to scale much bigger than that. I keep saying that, but we keep growing and growing and growing. But I don't have much desire to go out further. This is kind of where I'm kind of really happy. We've got a little more bandwidth. We could probably double the business that we're doing now with the current folks that we have, and I'm going to be happy right there. So I've been asked so many times to go into different.
yeah,
We're very niche, but I've been asked so many times, go into the roofing, go into a confined space, go into this. And it's like, why? I'm busy now in what we do,
yeah,
and so there's really no reason to go diversified out.
right. Well, uh, fair enough. So says the serial entrepreneur. That it'll be plenty good once it gets there, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I am getting older, and
Yeah.
so some of that slows, and I am enjoying more and more. I'm enjoying being out on the lake or being out on the golf course more than some of the other desires. So we'll see. We'll see. I agree. Touche. You have a point.
I couldn't help myself, Michael. Um, so something you highlighted on it, and I'm interested in your perspective on this. You talked about that you started your business because you saw a real need, a real problem, right?
Yeah.
And as common sense as that is, I'm not sure it's super common to look at things that way. So you had product market fit, and then you also have been extremely niche.
Yeah.
What, how important has that been to your success? And in success, I mean the demand that you found for your business. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. I think I I think it was the timing of this is unquestionably part of the success. Um, I was at the right place at the right time to be able to launch with OSHA revamping the general industry standard, with seeing that the associations didn't have a training outlet that they could go, big with. They were doing their convention stuff, but they weren't going to be able to go out to people. Yeah, I mean, it was big. It was big. But I think anybody that says that they're not in the problem solution business has fooled themselves. I mean, that is really the business that you're in. And it doesn't matter what it is. If you are doing roof washing, the problem that you're solving is that there's black stains on the roof. If you are pressure washing flat surfaces at a restaurant, the problem you're solving is that they have, grease issues or whatever around their dumpster, and then they have problems with pests or whatever coming in on that. So that is what you're solving. And if there's not a problem there, there isn't really an outlet for service, right? I mean, you're solving a problem. And so we just seen it, and that's one of the things. That is one of my, I think, things that I've always been able to do as a very young person, is be able to see, hey, this is an issue. Why is this? I can remember years ago going to Louisiana. I had a buddy down there, and the first time I got down there, I found out they were paying like $8 a bale for alfalfa hay, and I'm thinking, what? We're in Illinois, and we can grow it easily, and we're buying it for like $1 a bale. And so, sure enough, I bought a 30-foot flatbed and a diesel dually, and we started hauling bales of hay down to Louisiana, because it was like, okay, well, here's the problem. They're paying $8. I'm getting it for $1, so let's make some business, right?
Right. And again, I think it's very common sense to think that way. But what I see when I look at trends, and I'm not going to pick on pressure washers, so I'm not going to pick on another group. 5 years ago, vaping became a big thing. And all of a sudden, there was a couple successful stores in town, right? And then everyone else opens a store in town, and people keep opening stores because they see so and so has now gotten into business doing this and appears to be doing really well. So then I'm also going to do that. And this happens to the point that total saturation happens. No one's making any money, and a few hang on with the scraps. Same thing happened when, and I'm using these kinds of businesses because I don't think any of our listeners are in these businesses. So I'm picking on these businesses, or like the sweepstakes business when that became legal in North Carolina. They're glorified electronic gambling institutions, right? There's one on every corner. And I think the human nature thing is we see and we're like, oh, look at all these people being successful with that. I should do that too. And that's actually not the business thought, And so I just wanted to highlight there that the way you approached it was, you're like, oh, there's a gap in the market. Let me go fill the gap.
Correct.
And so I agree with you. If you don't see yourself as in a problem solution business, you're not in a, I don't know. I just, maybe I'm kind of off on a tangent there, but I do think it's something to think about no matter what business you are thinking about starting, especially if you're in that phase of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I kind of think of it as a patent, right? So if somebody's doing something already, whether they have it patented or not, it's a process that's already being done. And there's probably in every market, 2 or 3 guys that are major players in the market. And you look at it and you say, well, I want to be one of the major players. But I just kind of always think about it as if let's just say that their businesses were patented, how would you go get around the patent? Well, the way that you get around the patent is you think that you've built a better mousetrap, right? Mine is different than theirs because we do this. And really, when you're looking at something successful, if you're just going to come in and try to duplicate, yeah, it'll generally become a price game. But if you can come in with the mindset of I've built a better mousetrap, and this is why we're either competitive or even maybe we're higher priced, then you could win, right? But duplication isn't really ever the answer.
Amen. Amen. I'm just resisting the urge to get onto the whole competing on prices thing, because it doesn't work.
Nope.
That's the short answer, right?
Yeah.
It just won't work. You can't sustain it as a small business. You've got to find another way.
Yeah.
So the other thing that you touched on, and I'm kind of jumping around here, but just kind of picking out some things that you said. Now I know you said you went to people that you already knew well to build your current team, but you mentioned that everybody's really happy in it. What are the tenets of putting together a team? Like, we love teams here at BergFlow, and what have you found as the tenets to actually putting together a team where you have people that are happy to work, they want to go to work, they enjoy what they do, and they're loyal? What have kind of been what's made that possible?
We live in a very different world right now so far as employees and the way that they view things. My youngest son is 16, and I often use him. I monitor his attitudes and conceptions about things a lot because he's the mentality of these younger ones coming up. One thing that's very important, I think, and I have a pretty young team. I have they're all 20s and lower, and
Okay.
so that team, one of the things that they don't want is they do not want to be forced into um, hourly. They want flexibility. They want to be able to be given tasks, so to speak, and then they will complete them and they'll do a good job, but they kind of want it on their time. And that goes against my very nature, right? That's not the way I was brought up in business. I was brought up in business very, very differently. But I'm 50 versus these 20-year-olds coming up. So you have to play in that realm. Um, I remember talking to a window cleaning company not too long ago at dinner, and she's like, "I can't find people." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "What are you paying?" And she says, "I'll pay 25 bucks an hour." And my son's sitting there at the table, and so I just said, let's just ask Connor. I said, "So Connor, will you go to work for Madison, window cleaning for 25 bucks an hour?" He's like, "No." I go, "What would it take?" And here's a 16-year-old, right? 25 bucks an hour.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sounds like a lot.
yeah, and he says no. And I go, "Well, why wouldn't you?" He's like, they're gonna want me to work 40 hours a week, maybe more, and I'm just not willing to give up my time for that." And I said, "Well, what would it take? What would it take? Would it take 40 bucks an hour, $50 an hour?" And he has a couple little cleaning accounts, and it was interesting that he said, he goes, "Well, when I'm cleaning, I can make $50 an hour easy." And I said, "Okay, so if she paid you $50 an hour, would you work for her?" He says, "No." And he goes, "Because if I wanted to make $50 an hour, I'll just go get more accounts. They're out there. I can go get them." But it was interesting that the time constraints of forcing the person under time kept coming up, kept coming up. And so almost all my guys, they operate almost as they're with me, but they operate kind of as a subcontractor type mentality, um, almost like project management type stuff, right? It's like,
Hmm.
"Brad, I need you to do this. Just get it done. I don't care when you get it done, and I'm willing to pay you this to do it, and just get it done." That's really the way they want to operate, and I'm I don't like it necessarily. It's not the way I was in business, but it's working, and I'm able to keep some solid people around me, and actually some very sharp people. They're so far as technology and tech wise, they're very, very savvy. And the
That
other thing, that's interesting, Brad, is you know my 16-year-old is will can make a couple $100 a week easily on Cash App playing the market. So these kids that are coming up, they're in a different world. So if you think you're going to pull them in for 10 bucks an hour and get a good guy, they're going to look and say, "I can sit on my couch on Cash App and invest in stocks And they don't even have to do it the same way that I had to do it, where you're going to go in and buy full, you're going to pay a transition fee and all this stuff. No, they can buy fractions of stock. They can do it in $20 increments, $5 increments, whatever they want to, and that's going up and down all day, and they're watching it, and they're making money off of it. So if a person can do that, and that's just one instance, there's other venues too, right? But that's just one thing, and this is a 16-year-old kid that's got that piece of it figured out. So when you're looking at these $10, $12 an hour employees and saying, why can't I get them? Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because they can make that sitting at home doing nothing, not out getting bleached to death, or sopping wet on window cleaning, or jumping off a building window cleaning, or whatever. And so our mentality has to change, or else in the future you're just not going to have employees.
That is so fascinating. I'm a huge proponent of not fighting the desire of the people we have to work with, whether that's a customer or an employee. And our resistance to change, I think, causes us to have the opposite reaction. This is how I got customers before. This is how I kept employees before. And we just cling to that, no matter what changes. But how interesting is that? Now, I think the flip side is, just to kind of speak to that is, a business that we have here locally, it's a manufacturing business, but we also do servicing, small engine repair and custom stuff for the pressure washing industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the single biggest problems that we're facing today in a cost of goods sold is efficiency around our hourly service techs. For example, they might take 5 hours to do something that we really can only bill an hour and a half for. Mm-hmm. With all the thinking about it, walking around it, wandering off time, right?
Yep.
And so there may be advantages to looking to a different place. This is the traditional model, but it also comes with its drawbacks, right? And you're always fighting efficiency in an hourly model. So this is another way to think about it. I'm thinking about like the service techs that are a little older and more mature take a totally different response to some of the guys that are like in their 20s.
Yep.
It's a totally different world. But man, that is so insightful. I love that, man. You have shared some awesome stuff on the podcast today, like totally unexpected, and I appreciate it. Before we wrap this up, I mean, is there anything else that is just kind of on your mind from this conversation that you want to share?
Yeah, I don't know, not really. I just definitely think you have to look at. I just know that the employee model has definitely changed, and I remember maybe 10 years ago now, I was at an ISSA convention, and the CEO of Zappos was there, and he gave this talk about when he started Zappos, and I think this just really impressed me, the fact that I was lost in thinking about what people really wanted. But he said when they started Zappos, they went to all of the Silicon Valley companies and they surveyed employees, trying to find out what they were trying to be different, right? They're really trying to appeal to employees. What would make Zappos a desirable place to work for versus other Silicon Valley? Now, this isn't going to work for pressure washing, but it does put your mind at the fact that your traditional thoughts aren't correct anymore. So they surveyed the employees. Number one thing that people wanted, what do you think? 401k, salary, health insurance, all these things? Zilch, none of it. Their number one request was doggy daycare. Number one request.
Yeah.
Now, again, that probably doesn't play in the mobile service contractor world, but if you think that the mindset of people hasn't changed as to what they're looking for to gain from the employee-employer relationship, you're behind, you're lost, because it has.
Absolutely. That's some food for thought. And you have to actually talk to the people and ask them if you want to know what that is, and then be prepared, right? To kind of lean into what you find out if you want to move forward.
Yeah, because they could have taken the attitude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, doggy daycare,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And if they would have, they wouldn't probably have gotten to be as successful as they were because they listened. And then what did they do? They set up their company where there's stupid doggy daycare there, right? And
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
attracted
Yeah.
those type of
Really.
people, attracted that talent, and so they were smart. And so I agree with you.
Yeah.
You're going to have to ask. You're going to have to figure out, what do people want? Do they want it? We always think, well, I got full time work for you. I'm going to tell you right now, most people don't want full time work. They don't want to be tied down to 40-hour week. And so, especially these young ones coming up, they want to be locked in like that. And so you may have to have 6 part-time people rather than 3 full-time just to get things the way you want it. But the times have definitely changed. Things have gotten different, and either you'll change with them or you'll be extinct. That's just the way it is.
That's right. That's right. Uh, and once again, it comes back to it's the mindset that you take into it that will determine how it plays out. You know, and I appreciate the advice, Michael. I appreciate you being on the episode. This was really cool. Like, I love all the unexpected twists and turns of the conversation. So thanks again. That's another episode, guys. Obviously, you can check this out, the Technician to CEO podcast. I never drop any information about it. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts. One of these days we'll be on Apple. And you can find us on YouTube as well. Michael, how do people get in touch with Expert Safety Services?
The easiest way, just go to our website, expertsafetyservices.com, and they can contact us through that. That's probably the easiest way. So expertsafetyservices.com. I appreciate you having me on today. It's been a wonderful time, and we'll do it again sometime.
All right, man. Well, that's another episode. We'll see you guys next time.